The New York Jets currently sit at 1-7, and at the NFL trade deadline, they just had a fire sale. So in today's video, I want to talk about the New York Jets, what's going to happen the rest of the season, and what we can look forward to the rest of the way. Subscribe and like the video if you guys do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. So as I mentioned, the New York Jets are 1-7. They're not a good football team, and they just traded away Quinnen Williams for a first-round pick next year and a second-round pick, and Sauce Gardner for not one, but 2 first-round picks, one this year and one next year. We'll go into more details about those trades because I think they did a whale of a job, but I think it's also important to talk about what this team has looked like this year. What are they good at? What are they bad at? As I mentioned, they're 1-7. Their one victory on the year is against a bad football team in Cincinnati that has one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and they won that game with a fourth quarter comeback. Outside of that, they had a really close game in week 1. They got destroyed by Buffalo. Close game against Tampa Bay. And frankly, for the first 3 weeks of the season, I kind of thought this Jets team was going to be a pretty competitive, fun football team. But then they got smacked around by Miami. They got smacked around by Dallas. They had a close game versus Denver, but a game in which Justin Fields just played completely terrible. And then they lost to Carolina, a game in which they scored a total of 6 points. They get the win versus Cincinnati, and that was kind of like the relief moment when it's like, okay, we're not going to be a 0-win football team. Simply put, this is just not a good football team. When you look at the numbers, they're 24th in points per game, 26th in touchdowns per game, 25th in yards per game. And you guys are looking at it on your screen. They are in the bottom half of basically every single offensive statistic. They're actually a decent running football team. They're second in yards per rush, third in rushing yards per game, and 17th in rushing touchdowns per game. So if there's any saving grace for this offense, it's that they can sometimes run the football. But as we all know, with Justin Fields, they're not a good passing team. It's a very run-heavy offense, and they don't throw a lot of interceptions, so I guess that's kind of the saving grace. Defensively speaking, this has not been a great unit either. It was supposed to be their strength a few years ago, but all of the pieces have kind of just crumbled around Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. This year, they're ranked 27th in opponents' points per game, 20th in opponents' yards per game, and 22nd in opponents' touchdowns per game. They have not been good against the run. They have not been good against the pass. And that's not to say that every player has been a complete disaster. I think Brandon Stevens has been fine as that CB2. Without Sauce, you're probably going to have him play a bigger role, so that'll be interesting. We've seen Jermaine Johnson make a couple plays. Will McDonald's a pretty decent pass rusher. Like, we've seen some guys make some plays out there. But in the totality of this team, it's just not been good this year. And when you look at their future schedule, they have Cleveland after the bye. I think that's actually a winnable game. I would not be surprised if the Jets were to win it. I'd probably favor Cleveland, but I think the Jets have a chance. Then you have New England, Baltimore, Atlanta. I don't see the Jets winning any of those games. You have Miami in week 14. Maybe you win that one. If you beat Cleveland, you want to get Cincinnati, maybe you beat Miami. You could be a 3-win ball club because afterwards you have Jacksonville, you got New Orleans, you got New England, and you got Buffalo. Definitely not a hard schedule. This schedule is actually quite easy when you look at it. But this Jets team is they're just not good. For all the easy games out there, I don't know if the Jets are going to win a lot of them. I think at their best, if they go on a little bit of a nice run to end the season, I think they might be a 4-win football team with wins over Cleveland, Miami, and maybe Jacksonville or New Orleans. But more realistically speaking, I think this is probably going to be a 2 or 3-win ball club that's competing for the #1 pick, which, by the way, is a good thing. You just had a fire sale. You accumulated more draft assets. Now you want to probably lose a lot more games to hopefully secure the #1 pick. It's going to be really fascinating to see who ends up getting that #1 pick because there's some really bad teams this year. I think Tennessee is a horrendous football team. They might have a chance to get the #1 pick. I think the Jets are a bad football team. They might have a chance to get the #1 pick. I think the Browns are in the conversation. I think the Dolphins are in the conversation. The Saints are in the conversation. Hell, the New York Giants might be in the conversation with all their injuries. I mean, there's about 5 teams that are all realistically competing to end up with the #1 pick. So for a team in New York, any win actually kind of hurts this team. So I think for a lot of Jets fans, they're probably hoping to lose out the rest of the way or at the most win 1 or 2 games. Because if you win 4 games, I'm sorry, I don't think you're going to end up with the #1 pick. I don't see New Orleans or Tennessee winning another game this year. So it's tough. I think the Jets are in a really tough spot. I do think they're going to end up with the top 3 pick, worst case scenario, which means you're going to end up probably taking a quarterback. So that's been their year so far. Now I want to dive into the Quinnen Williams trade and the Sauce Gardner trade because those 2 guys were kind of the saving graces of this team defensively this year and even last year. Because frankly, the defense around them has just kind of, as I said earlier in the video, has sort of fallen apart. Guys have left, guys have played worse. The team just hasn't improved on that side, which again, the defense was a strength for this team just a few years ago. I mean, we were talking about it where it was like, hey, the Jets have a good defense. With Aaron Rodgers in the mix at quarterback, we're talking about a Jets team that should have a really good defense and a functional offense. And then, of course, Rodgers got hurt, the defense got worse, and we all know how that all went. So then they went ahead and they traded Sauce Gardner. They get 2 first-round picks for the Indianapolis Colts. If you guys watched my last video where I reacted to all these trades, I like this trade for both sides. For the Colts, you get a superstar corner, one of the best out there. Made a lot of sense. For the Jets, look, he's a 25-year-old player that, realistically speaking, probably has about 5 or 6 more years of his prime. But if you are the Jets, I think it might be a little bit more important to open up the salary cap a little bit more, have more flexibility, and just have more draft assets to start improving other sides of things that you might need. Same thing with Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams, hell of a player, but he's getting into his late 20s now. He's on a bigger contract, and you can get a 2027 draft pick and a 2026 second round pick to potentially fasten the rebuild in a way, or the retooling, whatever you want to call it. So making these moves, yes, you're going to make your defense significantly worse. This was already a bad defense prior to the trades. Now you get rid of probably their 2 best players defensively. The defense is going to get a whole heck of a lot worse, but that's kind of fine. Again, they're not trying to win this year. Frankly, they're probably not even trying to win next year. This is a Jets team that is looking at it and saying 2027, 2028, that's when we're hoping to start to get in the right direction. That's when we're hoping to not be in the top 5 pick conversation. Sure, Quinnen and Sauce could have been along for the ride, but it would have made things a little bit more difficult to go after free agents, to, sign draft picks, to have all these different things, because you also have to remember, when you have a first round pick, those first round picks get first round contracts. And I'm sure they could have figured it out, but now you get the opportunity now to take 2 first-round picks this year, 3 first-round picks next year, which, by the way, next year's draft class looks to be very freaking good. So I think it's important now to talk about what's next for the New York Jets. You have all these assets. You have this current roster. What is secure on your roster now, and what might you do moving forward? Well, when you look at this depth chart here for the New York Jets, I think you have a few things secured for your future. Number one, you have your number 1 receiver in Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson has been one of the better receivers out there the past couple years. He just doesn't have a quarterback that can get him the ball, but he's a really good player. We obviously know Garrett Wilson he's that guy. You just traded for Adonai Mitchell too, who I think has the chance to develop as a wide receiver too. I liked him out of college. I think he needs to be more consistent, needs to have a bit more urgency and things like that, but I think he has all the talent and potential, and now getting more opportunities to pair opposite of Garrett Wilson, learn a little bit from him, I think it's a good spot for him. I think you're fine with your tight end 1. I think Mason Taylor has done his job. He looks like he's going to be a really good starting tight end for you. I think your offensive line is also pretty good. You might need another offensive lineman somewhere in the middle, but assuming you bring back Elijah Vera Tucker, you have your tackle set up, you have Elijah Vera Tucker, I feel like you feel mostly pretty good about your offensive line. Defensively speaking, if you keep on to Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, I think you feel okay about your edge rushing room for now. And you have some other guys too that you are okay with. Talking about Brandon Stevens, you're probably hoping that a guy like Azariah Thomas can continue to develop. You have some linebackers, Jamin Sherwood, Quincy Williams. We'll see if, there's been some stuff going on there. We'll see if that can end up working out. So if you are this Jets team, it's not like you're completely void of talent. Actually, when you look at the offense, they're kind of just a quarterback away from being really good. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to go into next year, draft Fernando Mendoza and become a top 5 offense. I don't think that's the case. But I think if you draft a quarterback right now, you're not a horrendous offense. I think you can actually make some plays. I think on this offense, really all you need is a franchise quarterback, maybe an interior offensive lineman, depending on what you want to do with AVT. And if Adonai Mitchell doesn't work out, then you might need another receiver. And frankly, even if he does work out, you might need somebody that can work in the slot. I think like a Jeremy Bernard in round 2 would make a ton of sense. Now, on the flip side, defensively, this defense is going to need a lot of work. I think they probably need another edge rusher, more for like a depth piece, because I think you have your 2 starters, but maybe like a rotational edge rusher. You can get that in free agency. Because you lose Quinnen Williams, you probably need 1 or 2 interior defensive linemen. Depending on what they do at linebacker, you could use a linebacker. And obviously in the secondary, without Sauce Gardner, you probably need 1 or 2 corners out there, assuming Azariah Thomas does not develop into a really good starter for you. But the good news for this Jets team, they have the assets. They have 5 first-round picks the next 2 years. And look, this is what I would do if I had the picks. I'm just kind of spitballing right here. But next year with your first-round pick, with your own Jets pick, I'm probably taking a quarterback. I can look at Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, Ty Simpson. I'm taking one of those three guys. I'm a Ty Simpson guy. I know some people like Fernando Mendoza. I know some others like Dante Moore. Whatever your cup of tea is, then you can work with that. I'm sure the Jets would have their own personal cup of tea. Then with my second first round pick, the Colts pick, which is probably going to be late round one, probably somewhere in the 20s, maybe even 30s with how the Indianapolis Colts look. I'm probably just going best player available in whatever position of need. If a Carnell Tate falls, I'm taking Carnell Tate. If a Mekhi Lemon falls, I'm taking Mekhi Lemon. If somebody in the interior defensive line falls, like a Kristen Miller or a Caleb Banks falls, I'm going to take him. If a corner were to fall, Avion Terrell, Mansour Delane, Jermon McCoy, Colton Hood, if one of those guys falls, I'm taking them with my pick. And then you have 2 second-round picks too, both of which are going to be really valuable picks because the Jets pick is obviously going to be a top pick in the second round. And then your Dallas Cowboys second-round pick also could end up being somewhere in the 40s. So you're in a spot there where you take a quarterback with your own pick, then you use the Colts pick to add another piece. Let's just say they draft an interior defensive lineman. Then you can draft a corner or a receiver or an offensive lineman in round 2. And right then and there, you have 4 guys that could potentially be starters for you next year. Next year, you're probably not going to be good. Even if the offense improves significantly, I don't think you're going to be very good. So then you can then say, okay, we have 3 first-round picks. We're going to have probably a top 10 pick that's our own pick. We'll have the Dallas Cowboys pick that could be somewhere in the teens. And we're going to have the Indianapolis Colts pick, which could finish probably in the 20s or 30s. You just never know. And right then and there, you just say, okay, we need a receiver. We'll take a receiver. We need an offensive lineman. Boom, we got that. Edge rusher, boom. Corner, boom. You can start to add pieces. The one caveat to all this, theory though, is you have to hit on your picks. We've seen time and time again where teams will have multiple first round picks and they don't hit on them. I look back a few years ago and look at the New York Giants, who've had a couple times they've had multiple first round picks. A few years ago, they traded back into round 1 to draft DeAndre Baker, corner from Georgia, and it did not work out. He was terrible. And then a couple of years after, they had the draft where they took Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. Now, Thibodeau is working his way into being a good player, a really good player, but Evan Neal might be out of the team this next offseason. We've seen time and time again where teams have multiple first round picks and they don't hit on them. So it's really important for the New York Jets to evaluate well the next 2 years and not overthink things. Don't reach on players. I'm not saying the Giants did so, by the way. I think those guys were talented. They just didn't work out there. But for the Jets, you just cannot reach on guys. Don't sit there and say, man, with our last first round pick, the Colts pick, we badly need a receiver. We need somebody to pair next to Garrett Wilson and Adonai Mitchell. Let's go ahead and reach on Chris Bell from Louisville. You don't have to do that. You don't have to reach. You have a ton of assets to work with, which also means you don't have to be perfect. Not every single first round pick has to be a superstar. I don't think this should be a draft where they look at it and say, we're going to take huge swings. No, just get guys that can play on your football team. Take the big swing at quarterback. Go get your guy. Then with your other draft picks, make sure you get dudes who are going to be good football players. Like when the Bucks took Emeka Egbuka, we all knew Emeka was going to be a good football player. He was just going to be good. And what has he done? He's been good. But you look at a team like Cincinnati, for example, who took the big swing on Shamar Stewart. We're going to take a huge swing at the bat. He's not been good so far. That's not to say he will never be good, but that's a risky play on their end. I don't think the Jets are in the business to be risky. I'm not saying you be stupid and boring and just take, some meh offensive lineman in round 1. I'm not saying that, but I am saying you don't have to take these huge, massive swings like maybe what you've had to do in years past, because you have 5 first-round picks. If you get 5 good players, including 1 at quarterback, your team is going to become a lot better. So to me, you might take 1 or 2 swings with your first round picks, but I don't think all 5 of them should be these huge gambles, because you take the big gamble, you might be out of a job. So it's really intriguing to see what the Jets do the next couple years. It's also fair to mention, they got like $90 million in cap space. Now you're going to have to allocate probably 18 or 20 million of that to your draft picks. So realistically, you're looking at about 60 or 70, maybe you restructure, extend a few guys. You're probably working with probably about 40, $50 million if actual cap space to work with. But that's a lot of money. That means you can go out there and take a big swing in free agency. If you say, hey, Adonai Mitchell just didn't work out, let's go trade for George, or let's go make a move for George Pickens or somebody like that. Hey, corner's a really big need. Well, Reek Willen's available. Why not give him a 2-year, $20 million deal or something like that? I don't know what his deal would be. Hey, we need help in the edge rushing room. Let's go get Trey Hendrickson. Hey, this guy's out there. Let's go take a swing on this guy. Like, they have the money to take a couple swings to get really good next year. So I look at this Jets team. I look at the situation they're in. I say, if they hit in the next 2 or 3 years, they could be a team that turns it around really quickly. That's the thing, though. The Jets have had opportunities in years past, but they haven't hit. They've made mistakes. They didn't develop properly. They did not trust their coaching staff. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Aaron Glenn. It feels like this is a move they have made to try and extend their time here, to try to get more chances. And I kind of think it might be worthwhile to keep your coach around. I think sometimes we get very trigger happy with wanting to fire head coaches after a bad year. Sometimes it's fair to do so, but sometimes I think let's just give these guys a chance. And for Aaron Glenn, I kind of think you give him a chance. Let him go ahead and bring his guys in. Let him see out these next 2 drafts. If they fumble the first draft and they have a terrible draft, then yeah, fire him and get somebody new in. And he's going to have 3 first-round picks in his first draft. But I thought to end the video, why not do a little quick mock draft just to kind of give you an idea as to what this team could do. So as you can see, I'm on the PFF mock draft simulator. The Jets have the 3rd pick in this one. Their other first-round pick would end up being right here at number 32, but you can also see they have the 35th pick. And scrolling down a little bit more, the 45th pick too. So 3 picks within, a 15 pick range. At the 3rd overall pick, I'm taking a quarterback. You pick the litter here. I would personally go Ty Simpson. If you go Fernando, that's fine. If you go Dante, that's fine too. I'll take Ty Simpson right here. Then in round, or your last pick in round 1, there's some talented guys. I could go with Kristen Miller to replace Quinton Williams. He's a really good run-stuffing defensive interior. Maybe I want to go Sonny Styles to replace Jeremy Sherwood and those guys. I probably won't go him here, but that's a possibility. Could go receiver. I could go tackle. Well, not tackle, but I could go offensive lineman maybe. But I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to take Kristen Miller here to be my pick for the Colts. And then I'm back up here just a few spots later at 35. And look, I might need to get a corner in this year's draft. We may not have a couple guys here. You got AJ Harris, you got Chris Johnson. I like Keith Abney a lot. We'll take Chris Johnson from San Diego State, really good player. Down the board here at 45 with the Cowboys pick, we've already taken a quarterback, an interior defensive lineman, a corner. I say we go to that 2nd level and draft a linebacker. I like Anthony Hill. You see my Texas flag, absolute hook 'em. Like Anthony Hill right here. They don't have a 3rd round pick, but look at the talent we got here in just 1 draft. We have our starting quarterback, we have a rotational interior defensive lineman, we might have a starting corner, and we have a potential starting linebacker for this team. Hopefully that gives you an idea as to what they can look at this year. And then you can also say, well, we didn't address receiver. Well, we'll do that in 2027. We didn't address center or guard. Well, we'll do that next year. Oh, we want to get another corner. You can do that next year. You have 3 first-round picks. That's just really where this team is at. They're in a great spot. I think, look, it all comes down to hitting on your picks. You have some talented guys already on your team. You're going to draft your quarterback, and that pick has to work out. Here's the other thing, too. You could Josh Rosen the quarterback this year. You have 2 chances. I know I didn't talk about this earlier, but let's say you draft Ty Simpson. Let's just say he sucks. He is horrendous in his rookie year and doesn't show any flashes. You have a first-round pick next year, and you might be able to go after a Dylan Raiola, an Arch Manning, I don't know, somebody like that, DJ Lagway, I don't know, whoever's going to be QB1 in 2027. You can go after him, and if you want to make a trade for him, you have the assets to do so. So you can afford to take a swing and a miss at quarterback for the first time in history. I just said that. So I think it's a total possibility. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the New York Jets? What do you think they're going to do the rest of the season? And what do you think their future looks like? Are they bright? Is it dark? You let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like and subscribe button. I love you guys. Peace.